of Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. The descendants of Jacob number 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. So that's why I was going to say he's not counted, but remember, there's one more, Dinah. All right, now, Joseph and all his brothers and all the generation that died, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. The land was filled with them. There's a new king. And this is what happened, okay? So there's a new king to whom Joseph meant nothing. Remember, we just got off the whole thing of Joseph. Joseph has died, but he didn't. So these are his ancestors, but he didn't mean anything to this new king. And he says in verse 9, he says, look, the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous. And if the war breaks out, we will join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country. So they put slave masters over them. So that's how it happened. They sent them out into the land, slave masters, and to oppress them into forced labor. And they built Pithom and Ramses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with harsh labor in brick and mortar and all kinds of work in the fields. And in all their harsh labor, the Egyptians worked them ruthlessly. And the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose name were Shiphrah and Puah, when you're helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on delivery stool, if you see the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. And the midwives feared God, and they didn't do what the king of Egypt said, and they let the boys live. And when the king of Egypt summoned them, realizing what they were doing, and said, why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live? And the midwives said, Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They're so vigorous, they give birth before the midwives can arrive. So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. And then Pharaoh gave this order to all the people: every Hebrew boy that is born, you must throw him into the Nile, but let every girl live. So then we have the birth of Moses. Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. And when she saw he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But she couldn't hide him anymore. She got a papyrus basket for him, coated it with tar and pitch so it'd be waterproof. Then she placed him, the baby, in it and put him among the reeds in the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the river bank, and she saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying. She felt sorry for him and said, this is one of the Hebrew babies. Then the sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse this baby for you? And she says, yes, go. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said, take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you. So the woman took the baby and nursed him, and when the child had grown older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So it's the perfect story of, y'all, I'm tired again. I need to start doing this in the morning. What am I trying to say? I hate when I cannot come up with the word. Does that happen to y'all? It's, when you have someone who gets pregnant with your seed, and they, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't think of the word. They have the baby for you. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it's that. And so let's see. She named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. And Moses means drawn out. And so we're now in chapter 2 and verse 11. One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. So looking this way and that, seeing that no one was around, he killed the Egyptian, hid him in the sand. And the next day he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting, and he asked one of them, he asked the one that was in the wrong, he says, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" And the man said, "Who made you ruler over us? Aren't you thinking of killing as you killed the Egyptian?" And that's when Moses realized, whoops, someone saw it. But Pharaoh heard of this, and he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled Pharaoh and went in to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw and fill the troughs to water their flocks, and their water's flocks. Some of the shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered the flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, they said, "What?" He asked them, "Why have you returned so early?" And they answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from our shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." "Where is he?" Reuel said. "And why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat with us." So Moses agreed to stay with the man, who gave him his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom. That was a quick dinner and 9 months, marriage night and 9 months to have the baby. I've become a foreigner in a foreign land. Is what that name means. Let me look. Yes, Gershom means a foreigner there. So that's why he gave that name. During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry went before God, and God heard their groaning and remembered his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. There we go. That's where you're going to start seeing the 3 names together. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. And that's it. That's all we got in chapter 1 and 2. And what I would say to this is, as we start to look at this new part of history, it will start getting really detailed. And that was one of those accounts that I bet is going to get recounted, because we literally skipped from the fact that Moses just met this girl to the fact that she gave birth to a son. In other words, they got married. She got pregnant. 9 months went by. Almost a year of time's going by here, and she gives birth to a son. And Moses names him Gershom, because he is a foreigner in the land. And so now you have the Israelites. They now are officially enslaved, and they're crying out to God, and God has heard it. So that's where we are at, y'all. And next we're going to be talking about Moses and the burning bush, and some other, y'all may have heard some of these familiar stories, but now you're seeing, because we've done our backtracking of building up the families, that we now understand how this all went down. And here we are in one of the most critical books in the Pentateuch, or the first 5 books of law, or the laws of Moses, because they were given to him to make record of. That this is a time when he was born, and his purpose is getting set up. He's now got an heir, and now God's fixing to talk to him about what he wants to do with his life. Moses is one of the leading characters in the Old Testament for obvious reasons, but this next couple of chapters we're going to read in the next session is going to tell us why. What is the big deal about Moses? Okay, so anyway, that's all there is for today. I hope you're enjoying getting started in Exodus. It can't hurt to kind of look back over what you learned in Genesis, but boy, do I now have the historic backdrop that I need to come into. Okay, now I see why the Israelites are the ones who are actually the slaves. It's because they were doing so well that it worried the king. And so he thought, these guys are becoming very, 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 very prosperous. And he had concerns. And so they were put down because they were so great. And but God is with them. And God's plan will not be thwarted. Even as evil as man is, whether it's the Israelites themselves or the people who are trying to extinct them, I can't talk. God says, no, you won't do it. I have a plan. My plan will stand. It's still true today, y'all. I've heard people say when you have some setbacks in your life that God has a plan A, B, C, and D. That's not true. That's not true. God has a plan. It's just one plan. And you can join in it anytime you want to. Anytime you're a part of that plan. Just we got to not be rebellious and live in our own world in our own way and being our own God, and instead saying, renounce being God. I renounce my own way, my own dreams, my own desires, and I want it all to be you, God. Whatever you want, whatever you dream, whatever you desire, whatever your plan is, I just want to be a part of it. And when you have a submissive attitude like that is reverent and obedient and faithful towards God, He will reward it. He does every time. He can't not. That's who He is. And it's what He wants to do. He wants to bless us. He loves us. He's proved over and over how much He loves us. So if any of you are struggling with whether or not you're loved or feeling lonely, feeling frightened, just know that God loves you more than anything, and He has proven it. You can count on Him. Okay, you guys. Well, I will talk to you in the next video. Love you. Bye. Bye, 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 bye.